Phase Hero episode 32 is starting right now. BD here, and I'm very, very excited. We're just going to get straight into it because we have a limited amount of time, and I don't want to waste any more of it on introductions than I have to. Thank you to everybody who's joining us live. Thank you to everybody who's listening in podcast form. This is the episode where we are talking to Captain America Brave New World director Julius Onah. Julius, thank you so much for being here, man.
Thank you, BD. I'm really, really glad to be here, man. Really glad to be talking with you.
Dude, I'm very excited to talk to you because this Captain America Brave New World journey has been one I've been following for a while. I've seen the movie twice now. I've enjoyed it both times, and I'm excited to talk to you about it. But I want to go back to that beginning with you to start. Do you remember, like, what was your first step? What was your introduction to Captain America Brave New World? It had a different title at the time, but like, how did the journey with Marvel Studios kick off for you?
The journey started with a conversation with Nate Moore, the great Nate Moore, and Kiana Davidson, and it was a really organic conversation. We were talking about Sam, where he'd been, obviously from Falcon and Winter Soldier, where he's going, and thematically what was interesting, and also from a genre standpoint, what was interesting. And, you know, a movie was mentioned, The Day of the Jackal, which really perked my ears. And, you know, I responded with things like Les Samurai and things like Point Blank. And it wasn't that we were ever going to make a one-to-one to any of those movies. It was just exciting to think about the genre lane this could go in, and the textures and images and elements of those films that could help shape this. So that's where it really started. And it developed organically from there, led to meeting Kevin and Lou and everybody else at Marvel. And here I am. No
big deal. Just hanging with Kevin Feige and, you know, the Marvel gang, and, you know, making a Captain America movie. It's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
And seeing as this pulled from so many storylines of previous Marvel movies, I mean, going back 16 years now, like Incredible Hulk, and obviously all of Sam's journey. When you step in to direct what is the fourth Captain America movie, the first Sam Wilson movie, how much sort of like MCU homework do you have to do to make sure, you know, you're hitting all the notes, both story-wise, visually, all that stuff?
Well, you definitely do the homework. Luckily, I experienced all this stuff with fans myself, seeing those movies over the years, seeing the series. But you don't want it to get bogged down in homework. And we really made sure in the telling of the story that you could come into this really as a first Captain America movie, because it's Sam's first movie, and also not necessarily have to have watched every single one of those things and do homework ahead of time. You can just really go on the ride. So that's what was great about a thriller in terms of using that as a genre, because the investigation that Sam has to do is uncovering all that backstory for you while it's also advancing his character.
Oh, yeah. And watching it a second time, it was interesting. The thriller aspect, when you kind of know what's coming and you can pick up the little things that you planted along the way. Yeah. Pretty cool. There was no mention of Secret Invasion, which had a presidential story. And I'm just curious, was that ever considered? Was there ever like any reference to Secret Invasion you guys considered having in Brave New World?
You know, it was just the case that because this was really about focusing on Sam and his journey and his relationship with Thaddeus Ross, between picking up from Civil War, picking up from Endgame, obviously, as you mentioned, the series and Incredible Hulk, those were the things that felt really pertinent to Sam's story and journey. And that's what I wanted to focus on, and everybody wanted to focus on.
I think we're okay. No, I don't want to, but I think we're okay with that. Yeah. But, you know, I think one thing about this movie that's not being talked about enough is how good Carl Lumbly is.
Yeah.
We'll get to Mackie, we'll get to Danny and all that, but Carl's work as Isaiah in the scenes that he has, it's like my suit, don't hurt the suit. And he'll be on Phase Hero on Monday. I'm excited for everybody to see that interview. But can you speak to what Carl brings to a character like Isaiah and what made him such an integral part of the film from your perspective?
Carl brings just this incredible gracefulness. You know, there's a regal quality to him that is so effortless. And when you think about Isaiah's backstory and you think about, you know, some of the anger that's inside of him, some of the, you know, regret that's inside of him as well for everything that he's lost and everything that he suffered, you still want to be able to respect and like this guy. And that quality, I think, is so incredible. But the other thing that also maybe isn't talked about enough about Carl Lumbly is how funny he is. So there's this incredible regal quality to him, but he's also has this charm and this humor to him that, is essential to making that relationship between him and Sam not become too heavy. And we got to see that in display in this film in a way that I'm super excited about. But I'm so proud of Carl because he knocked his scenes out of the park.
Oh, he was phenomenal in this, and he is just such a graceful human. In my limited experiences with him, such a nice guy. My favorite parts for Sam Wilson, I love the action,
Yeah.
but my favorite parts for Sam Wilson were the quieter moments, the dialogue-driven beats that really allow us to see why he is Captain America,
Yeah.
why this guy is the right guy for the mantle. Can you talk about what Mackie brings to those moments of the character, where we're really getting to know Sam in those moments that don't involve throwing a shield around or kicking guys in the face?
There's two things he brings. Brings an incredible authenticity. There's just a way that he grounds you in his Sam Wilson and in his Captain America, and he brings an incredible vulnerability too. It was great to be able to showcase that side of Sam in this movie. We've seen Sam be in support of others, of course, specifically Steve over the course of previous Cap movies, but to have Sam in the center in a way in this movie where, different people at different points in his journey, push him in different directions, and he has to let his guard down in a real way, especially, also with Joaquin. One thing that was important to me was visually touching on his partnerships with people. And, there's a point where we see a series of images that take us back to Riley, take us to Bucky, and then take us to Joaquin. And you feel a sense of that vulnerability at different points in this movie and what it means to him to want to protect people, but also know because of the choice he's made to not take that serum and stand for a certain set of values that it could mean vulnerabilities for other people that he cares about.
But how do you, you're working in a superhero film and you have a human who hasn't taken the serum as Captain America. How do you factor that in? Because, we see plenty of movies where a human being, whether like we don't question it when it's John Wick,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? But when it's in a superhero franchise, people are like, oh, he doesn't have the serum. How does he do this? Do you factor that in? Like, how do you consider that when you're directing action scenes and wanting to make this guy look human, but also, a little bit above what your average guy could do for sure?
Well, of course, he's got incredible training. And that's a great question, by the way, because it's something that is thought about quite a great deal. He's got incredible training. He's got his amazing suit where he's leveled up in a big way, certainly with the vibranium wings. So that he's got these tools at his disposal that are incredible, but you do want to feel that vulnerability and that humanity, because I think that's what makes him so relatable. I joke around a lot about it, and Mackie and I joke around a lot about it. In an initial action sequence in the movie, I was telling everybody, I need Anthony Mackie to take a brick and smash it into somebody's face. And it was something that could just be a fun action beat, but it was also one of those cases where I wanted to show how this guy has to improvise and get scrappy to take down adversaries, see some of the messiness, but also the resourcefulness of what he does in these scenarios to reinforce his humanity and to do it right up front in the beginning of the movie. So it's details like that to me that were helpful to remind the audience that this is a normal guy in an extraordinary set of circumstances. But when the time comes to bust out those wings and, do some really crazy things, he has that as well. And of course, Steve's shield that was handed to him. So he's a hero and he's super, but that super is always rooted in his humanity. And I just felt like, what a relatable thing for this moment.
Mm-hmm. I mean, like the vibranium suit is amazing. The new costume design is awesome. But to me, again, my favorite parts are the parts where we're getting to know Sam through watching him talk to the president, watching him talk to Joaquin. And dude, Danny's so good. I love Danny. I think he's fantastic as Joaquin. He's got like this childish wonder about being near superheroes, which I feel like is sort of like what all of us would how we would react if we met Sam Wilson or any of these MCU characters. For that reason, it makes him like the baby face of the movie. I'm a wrestling fan, so I use those. What were you trying to what were you hoping people would take away from Joaquin in his sort of step up to heroism, but still being a fan in a sense, like a lot of us would be?
Again, it's another opportunity to see ourselves in the movie, right? What's so great about a superhero story is that aspirational quality to it, that idea that you're going on this larger than life adventure. And Joaquin is this great way to feel that joy, to feel that excitement. And I really love the idea of a big brother, little brother dynamic, because I felt like it had to be different from the dynamic that Steve and Sam had, where they were very much so peers, despite the massive age difference between them. So in this case, giving a different texture to that relationship was also great, because likewise, again, with Sam and Bucky, they were also peers. So to have somebody who is looking up to Sam, who he's a mentee to, and somebody who just brings that excitement and giddiness of like, I can't believe I'm here and I'm doing this and I have these wings, and it's just a lot of fun. And Danny did an excellent job bringing Joaquin to life in that fashion.
He's so good. I mentioned I'm a wrestling fan. I know it's been you've talked about. I've heard Seth talk about it. I think you've talked about it.
Yeah.
But with Seth Rollins having been removed from the movie when Giancarlo came in, it had me wondering: was Seth the guy in the church? Can you? Is it okay to say who he was? Was he originally the guy Cap fought?
He was not the guy in the church. We were just looking at different. Obviously, there's a rogues gallery with Serpent Society. And you're looking at what is the version of Serpent Society that feels the most grounded within the tone and the style and the texture of this film. So, with Giancarlo, Sidewinder also just felt great as a leader of Serpent Society to introduce them for the first time. But Seth was not Copperhead, no.
Okay. Giancarlo was amazing, by the way. I mean, he's amazing in everything he does. Can you talk? Was there anything he brought to Sidewinder that you didn't even like? It was you got to give him the credit for, because it was his idea.
Just the menace, was great. I love that. One thing that he brought that I thought was cool was the use of the contact lenses as well. He wanted to do something that also helped him feel different from who he'd been in other movies, which I really, really loved that touch. So there's a great moment somewhere in the second act where he raises up after in the middle of a fight sequence on his knees, and you see those eyes and you see the intensity of him, and you're seeing him bring Sidewinder to life in a way that's really, really cool. He's so iconic, and I think he's also hyper aware of how important it is to differentiate these characters, and sometimes these little physical touches can go such a long way. So that was something that was a really exciting contribution from Giancarlo.
With Sidewinder, and so there's the scene in the jail and stuff. There's a little bit of violence in the movie. I mean, there's that fight scene with Sidewinder and Cap. There's some decent amount of violence in this movie. How do you guys how is it determined how much you can get away with? Well, it's a Marvel movie, but I feel like Marvel sometimes it leans into the audience has grown up a bit, but we still have to let the kids come. So how do you balance those moments where it's enough violence for it to feel gritty and raw and real, but also not too much to kids can't come to the movie?
Well, you push it as far as you can, and I think everybody has so much experience with this and has such an understanding and deep respect for the audiences who come to this movie. I certainly, again, there's the moment with the brick, there's the violence that you're talking about there's other things that happen in the movie that are some real surprises, and I wanted to push that as far as I could, because I thought it was important, again, to reinforce the vulnerability of these characters as human beings, and to reinforce the tone of this movie and the genre lane that we were operating in. And sometimes you push it too far and then you pull it back. So we certainly went to the boundary of where we could go within our rating, but made sure that we just didn't cross that line.
I enjoy it. I like when Marvel goes a little bit darker, but I also like the lighter stuff, the Miss Marvels, and I'm excited for Daredevil. So it's got all of it. Obviously, I know there's just so much discussion on social media and in the media about the reshoots on the project, and I feel like it's been talked about how it's part of every movie, and you guys did 22 days is what I think it was reported. I'm just curious, how is what goes into reshoots determined? Is it like a testing process? Is it like, oh, we forgot something, it's changing? How is what goes into that part of the filmmaking process determined and decided on?
Well, for example, with this, we always knew that we wanted to experiment and push certain limits. This is a more grounded movie than I think some of the things you've seen recently, but you're always turning dials. So even with something like Serpent Society, which, these are characters that are very heightened in publishing, we wanted to play with how far could we go to really bring what's so exciting about Serpent Society, but make sure it fits into the world of the film. And that's one of those things where, when you're coming back for additional photography, you have the opportunity to refine. So there was stuff like that, those are the sorts of things that you're really, really thinking about. The other thing too is in terms of actually figuring out how this movie fits in with other stories that are coming, you are iterating and experimenting, knowing that you can come into AP and also do that. I think what was specifically different about this process was that we ran into a strike. And as a result of that strike, at a certain point, it was pencils down for everybody, not just us, but all the other movies coming after us. So it meant that when the actor strike and the Writers Guild strike had passed, then we were able to pick our pencils back up and figure out, oh, this and this is what we need. This is how it interfaces with other stories. But we only did one period of additional photography, which is the same on all of these movies. And it's just a part of filmmaking at this scale, you know. So when you think about so many movies that you love, I was mentioning this before, from Star Wars to Jaws to Lord of the Rings to, you know, all those movies, this is a part of the process, just because when you're making something of this scale, there are so many variables, and AP becomes essential to fine tuning and coming up with a thing that we know audiences will love. And it's really as a benefit to the audience to make this the best movie it can be.
Yeah, of course, and you're always trying to make the best movie you can. I find it. I mean, I'm a little tired of seeing the reshoots conversation, and I think it's a kind of a case in some instances, and I could be wrong. Probably shouldn't speak for people who are sharing their thoughts, but I feel like some people are seeing what they want to see in a sense, because that conversation has been so prominent. But you know, when you make a movie of this scale, it is, everyone talks about it. And I mean, I'm curious what your thoughts are, like, sort of, to some of the critical takes, some of the responses to the movie. It's been a mixed bag. So on the day where, like, the embargo lifts, like, how do you perceive that, think of that, and does it, like, impact your work going forward in any way?
I'm just excited to be sharing the movie with audiences. You make this for audiences to go have a great time and have a really, really good experience. And we also had a great time making this movie and worked really hard to create something that spoke to themes and ideas that were personal to us. So at the end of the day, you make the best movie you can, you put it out there, and you let audiences react to it. And I'm a big believer that when the audience finds the movie and gets the movie, it becomes theirs. And that conversation as a fan too is something that I love being a part of. So I welcome it as a storyteller.
Hey man, that's cool. I love that answer. I'm gonna try to, you know, if you haven't seen the movie yet, I'm not going to really give anything away too strongly, but I have a few questions about details of the movie. So I changed the banner at the bottom. If you're listening in podcast form, make sure you go watch Cap, come back for these last few minutes. I recommend the movie. I really enjoyed this one. Clearly, a lot of people in the comment section are sharing their enjoyment of it. A lot of people went and saw it last night, like myself. I saw it a second time last night. There is a credit scene on the movie. Did you direct I know sometimes another director or somebody it'll be a scene from the movie. Did you direct the credit scene on this one?
I did, yes.
Was there different ideas? How did that come together?
You know, that came together as we were also just thinking through, how do you want to resolve the storyline of Samuel Stearns, and how do you want to tip the hat to what's going to potentially be coming? You know, I'm not going to give any spoilers on Avengers, because that's not something that I would do, and not something that, frankly, I have spoilers to give. But I will say there are things that this is teeing up that I think are going to be really exciting for audiences. And as we know, Captain America historically been a leader of the Avengers. And in terms of the others that are coming, there's going to be a lot of fun possibilities that, you know, the subsequent movies can play with.
Oh, yeah, I'm excited for what's coming. I love what this sets up at the end there. I really, I thought it was cool that a big part of the political aspect of the story involved adamantium. Amazing. Yeah. So cool to have that. And also it's adamantium and Japan, which obviously is just, as a comics fan, we all go, oh, Wolverine is that the sort of thing, like, when you're developing the film, you're like mindful and conscious of the fact that we have adamantium, we're doing a storyline with Japan, that might be something for the future? Or is that just a coincidence?
No, I mean, look, you're always trying to figure out what is the best set of elements to tell the story. And then when something like adamantium comes into play as something you get to introduce into the MCU, of course, there's like, oh, wow, that backstory dovetails in a way that's really, really cool. And fans are going to be able to lean into this in a way that's really, really fun. So at the end of the day, you're always just thinking as a fan too, what is fun, what is exciting, what is interesting. You know, that's how that came together.
Hey man, the CGI for Red Hulk, I want to compliment that. The action with Red Hulk, I want to compliment that. You got Harrison Ford shirtless on camera in front of the cherry blossoms. There's some awesome Harrison Ford work in this movie. It looked like he was just having fun. Like it just looked like you guys all had fun. His press tour has been fun. Can you talk about Harrison Ford acting out this very angry President Ross who becomes Red Hulk and what it was like to get to see him in some of these crazy moments on set?
You know, if it's crazy for you guys, it's crazy for me and us as a crew. Also, you know, Harrison really wanted to have fun. He saw other great actors having fun in this universe and said, "Hey, give me some of that." So, you know, we had initial conversations about what the story needed from a character standpoint, from a theme standpoint, in terms of his emotional journey. But again, you never lose sight of the fact that this is a guy who in Captain America flies around with vibranium wings, and then he goes toe to toe with a gamma irradiated Red Hulk, you know? So you want to tell this great human story with great themes, but you want to have fun. And that's what Harrison was about. You work hard and you also make sure it's fun for the audience.
I love it, man. And that showdown between them is fantastic. I was on the edge of my, I loved what you did there, man. Was there ever like a consideration of an alternate ending of how that fight would go?
It was always, you know, look, you want to be realistic within the rules of what is going to happen in a universe where you have Hulks. So it was never going to be the case where, you know, Sam could just kill a Hulk, because we know that's not what happens. But we did play with different iterations of how he could go about doing it to make it as exciting and as intense as possible, and also show you what is so formidable about Sam. And I think we found the right way to get out of that in leaning into what Sam's unique superpower is, that also spoke to the emotional journey and the theme that the film was about.
I would love to ask you how Danny got away with sneaking so much Miami gear into the movie, but my last question, because I got to let you go, is about there's a cameo in the movie midway through. It's very cool. I love seeing these guys together. What was it like having those guys on set together? And did that mean you had to collaborate or have things in mind from a storyline of an upcoming film?
You know, look, you're definitely thinking about that. And there's a great team around me at Marvel who obviously there's a huge story group there thinking about how these things interface. But in terms of those guys, I mean, I grew up watching this stuff like everybody else. And it was so, so cool to get to be there and see these individuals share a scene. And, you know, you're giddy. It's fun. It's, you know, and that's what these movies are about. But there's also so much respect and affection that they have for each other. So, you know, knowing that was something that was also very important for them was super exciting for me.
Man, at the premiere, everybody lost their minds when that happened last night in IMAX here in Nashville. Everybody popped. It was great. Julius, thank you so much for hanging with me on Face Hero. Congratulations on making a really dude. The movie is good. I liked the movie quite a bit. Like I feel like I don't know. Seeing the discourse is frustrating me. And I don't know, it's a weird thing to talk about, but I don't know. I liked the movie, man. I thought you did a really good job, and I want to congratulate you on it. And I hope you're able to enjoy it and have a good weekend and just have a great time, dude. I don't know if that feels weird to hear. I don't know, but I want to enjoy stuff, and I am, and I'm tired of the discourse, and I just want to congratulate you, man.
Thank you so much, man. I appreciate that.
Of course. Thank you so much for hanging on Face Hero. Everybody, thanks for hanging with us on Face Hero. Have a great weekend. Julius, worldwide press tour. Whole entire production. Take some time and enjoy yourself, brother. Talk to you soon.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.